Welcome to the Rancher's Voice, presented by the Montana Stockgrowers Association. I'm Jay Bodner, MSGA's Executive Vice President.
And I'm Raylee Honeycutt, Director of Natural Resources. Join us for conversations surrounding policy, the legislature, and issues that matter most to ranching families in Montana.
Well, welcome to this week's episode. We got a great podcast for you this week. We'll start off just with some of the highlights. We have a new communications announcement that we'll be making to all our listeners. We also are going to be looking back at our great mid-year event that we had in Lewistown, providing some details there and a recap. We also have our Environmental Stewardship Award program, and so we'll be making some new announcements on that great program also. And then also, just as a look ahead, we have our TBone Classic coming up, so we'll share some information on that fun event also.
And we hope that each of you have subscribed to the Rancher's Voice, but if not, please subscribe to the Rancher's Voice. That will automatically download onto your phone and notify you every time we have a new episode. Make sure to follow us on social and make sure to like, share, and comment on each episode. If you have questions or topics you'd like to hear us cover, you can email us at kenny@mtbeef.org. So Jay mentioned that we have a new announcement, and we are excited to announce that we are kicking off a new way to communicate to those interested in learning what we're doing, and that is via text message. So if you're interested in receiving updates or information via text message from us 2 to 3 times a month, we encourage you to subscribe to our text messaging system. So if you want to get a pen and paper out, it is BEEF, BEEF, and you can text that to 855-965-4006. Will get you subscribed, and then you will be seeing updates and information surrounding MSGA in the coming months. So we hope to have you join us.
Yeah, once again, just to encourage everybody to text that. It's a great way to communicate, so we're looking forward to just a new way to try to make sure to make things easier for you as members. So as we talked about earlier, we did have a great mid-year event in Lewistown. We just wrapped up our 137th mid-year meeting in Lewistown. It was on Thursday the 10th and Friday, June 11th. And Lewistown, great town, center of the state. Even got a little bit of rain in town. Wish we could have shared that with the rest of the state, but I'd like to just thank everyone who did attend. We did have a great turnout of folks. We had, I think, over 150, close to 160 attendees, and who gathered. We had 3 days of education, policy, some fellowship, and then a little bit of fun too. So it was a fun meeting. We did have we were joined by the governor, Greg Gianforte, at the opening general session, and he did give a good opportunity to kind of share some of the highlights from the 67th Montana Legislature, some of the big wins and some of the vision that the governor had brought forth for the legislature. So it was great to kind of hear some of that. He also talked about his red tape task force. So they're looking at reducing as much red tape just to generate, a better economy in Montana. So once again, Montana is our stock growers are gathering up some information from you as members, but if anybody has anything more that they'd like to share with us, please do that, because we'll be submitting that to the governor also. And then the governor did also just talk about his priorities. He is a gentleman that certainly is willing to get out there and see Montana, and so it was great to kind of see the efforts that he's taking for the state of Montana.
And the governor is kicking off, or has kicked off, his 56 county tour. So he will be making his rounds around the state, and encourage you to keep a lookout for when he comes to your local communities.
Yeah, great. And so we also were joined by NCBA President-elect Don Scheffelbein. And so Don, he shared some of the updates for the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, NCBA, and it was great to kind of hear his perspective. He comes from a family ranch, a large family, and so it was, he just really brings things kind of down to home when he talks about many of the issues that are facing our livestock industry. We also did have a fun event. We had Zoanne Stoltz. She's the reference historian for the Montana Historical Society. And she really gave a great presentation on some of the history of the Montana brands, and actually even picked out a few of the brands of a few of the participants there. And it was a fun event, and I think a lot of people enjoyed it. We could have been there a while longer just listening to her, but it was engaging, and it's kind of fun to look at some of the history of the Montana brands. One of the other things with that event also, we did have, we closed that session off with MSGA member and past president Ed Lord. So Ed and his family are donating a brand. It's a C hanging U to the Montana Stockgrowers Foundation. And this brand is going to be auctioned off virtually, and we're going to be starting that right now from June all the way to November up to convention. And so if you are interested in that, acquiring that brand, you can text MT brand to 843-606-5995, and you can start the bidding there. And if you didn't catch that, just call the office. We can certainly help you get that set up, but it'll be a great donation. And then we just did close off our event with Karen Bud Fallon from the Fallon Law Firm down in Cheyenne, Wyoming. And I think many of our listeners probably are familiar with Karen and just the expertise she brings. But she did talk a lot about the Biden administration, the 30 by 30 initiative, and what we kind of expect over the coming year. So it was a great presentation by Karen.
Yeah, overall great event and great conversations. As we had a lot of speakers and great fellowship, we also did get down to business and talk policy, as this is one of our 2 opportunities for our members to bring policy forward for the organization. And so in many of our committee meetings, we had subject matter experts kind of come in and talk about updates, and participants had a lot of opportunity to share their thoughts and comments. But from that, we did come out with 2 interim policies that was voted on by the membership. The first one came out of the Endangered Species Committee, and really this is surrounding grizzly bears. And so the current interim policy that was passed says, therefore be it resolved, MSGA recommends lethal removal of grizzly bears suspected or known to have killed a person or livestock after its first offense. That is interim policy, and will move to our convention in November to be voted on. The second piece of policy was out of our beef marketing committee, and it was around 2 different charges that we had a working group working on. So from convention last year, a working group was appointed to review both GIBSA policy as well as Cattle Market Transparency Act policy and thoughts. And so that group, that working group brought forward policy, and there are a variety of different breakouts for that. So the first one is around GIBSA, and it says, therefore be it resolved, MSGA supports the following proposed changes to GIBSA, and the proposed rule is adequate, and MSGA pursues no further action. In regards to cattle market transparency, we have 3 different sections that we passed interim policy on. The first one is under the section of cattle contract library. Therefore, be it resolved, MSGA supports the effort to create a contract library. In addition, we recommend that the library include packer feedlot financing agreements that may create captive supply. In the section covering cash market acquisition of cattle, therefore be it resolved, MSGA opposes putting the authority to dictate how market-fed cattle MSGA opposes putting the authority to dictate how we market-fed cattle in the hands of a political appointee. MSGA further opposes any government dictates or mandates predetermining percentages of cattle sold via live auction, forward contract, formula, grid, etc. And then lastly, Section 5, Public Availability of Information. MSGA supports transparency and supports the concepts outlined in this section. So those were the interim policies. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us, and we're more than happy to dive into any questions that you may have. If you have thoughts on these or additional thoughts or comments on policy, we look forward to hearing from you at our annual convention in November.
And we'll also be sharing that policy in the newsletter too. So please be on the lookout for that so you can get kind of see the printed version of those. And if you do have any questions, always just give us a call here at the office. Now I'd like to move on to the Environmental Stewardship Award. This is a program we're very proud of. We'd like to take this opportunity to announce the 2021 Environmental Stewardship Award Program, or ESAP winner, that we announced during the MidYear meeting. Since its inception in 1991, this program has been around for a while. It has honored those ranchers across the United States who implement practices that positively impact their land, livestock, wildlife, water, and ecological landscape as a whole. So this year, we are pleased to honor the Joe C. King and Sons Ranch this year for Montana Stockgrowers Association, and that was announced at our MidYear meeting. So each year, the ESAP, it does recognize a Montana ranch that exemplifies environmental stewardship and demonstrates a commitment toward improved sustainability within the beef industry. So the Joe C. King and Sons Ranch is owned and operated by Chris and Gary King and their son Jay King, and they also do have their daughter and son-in-law Kylie and Mitch Thompson. So it's nice to have the whole family as a part of the operation and making sure that they are successful. So for the last 50 years, they've been making improvements to their ranch and grazing management, and it was fun to listen to Chris King as he talked about it as we announced that. And they have done a lot for that ranch. And his dad, actually, Joe King, he started those efforts back in the 1970s, and he sectioned off some ground into 5 pastures. And it was at that point he began his rest rotation operation. So we have a little bit of information here. We'll have a little clip from the King family about their operation. So
we do a deferred grazing system now that we've been doing for about 3 or 4 years. Previously, we had done rest rotation. My father set up a rest rotation system about 50 years ago, and in cooperation with the BLM. And we felt that we saw real advantages of that compared to the common grazing that we did before, the season-long grazing in common with a number of neighbors. We thought the rest rotation was very beneficial, but as we went along and continued to read and learn more about other techniques, we decided that the deferred management maybe would offer the next level, the next step up. So we're into that now, and by going to that deferred and adding in, rearranging some of our grazing, we're being able to shorten the amount of time that we're in each pasture, give the forage more time to grow and regenerate. Our whole grazing program is designed to try to achieve sustainable goals and environmental goals, because those environmental goals are that's the habitat, that's what we graze, that's what we survive on. So by continuing to try to learn about soil health and grazing management and implementing new ideas as we can, as it's feasible to do so, it just all ties together. I want to make the ranch better, and I think that I see the same attitude in the next generation that's here with us now. So hopefully we'll just keep moving on a positive trend.
So once again, we'd like to congratulate the King family on this award. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about the Montana Environmental Stewardship Award program, just visit mtbfoundation.org. So or just call the office. But we're always looking for great participants out there. So please think about this as we look at this program.
And we're going to wrap up this podcast with a call out to all of you listening who may golf. It is time again this year to start thinking about the TBone Classic. This year's event will be held in Billings, August 25th and 26th. The dinner in Calcutta will be the evening of the 25th, and then the golf tournament on the 26th. Teams are $750 per team. That includes your tickets for dinner, cart, lunch, and greens fees. Anyone who wants to bring an extra or a date to the dinner, extra gala tickets will be $50. And you can register again at mtbfoundation.org. There are still some sponsorships available as well. So if you're interested or your company's interested in sponsoring the TBone Classic, you can reach out to our foundation director, Jerry Dellis, at Jerry, JERI at mtbeef.org, and she can get you that information. We hope to see many of you out there, as it's always a fun event, and we hope that you can join us and help raise a lot of money for the foundation, because they do some really great things for our organization and others around the state.
Yeah, it is a really great event, so just to encourage everyone to come join us for that very fun event. Now I'd like to introduce our next interview, Matt Pearson with the Producer Partnership. Matt is currently the president of the Producer Partnership, and it's a pretty novel idea. It's an effort for farmers and ranchers working together to end hunger in Montana. So join us today. Welcome, Matt. Well, welcome, everybody. Today, I'd like to introduce Matt Pearson. Matt has joined us today. Matt is a fifth-generation producer. He's located in the beautiful town of Livingston, Montana, and he is the founder and president for the Producer Partnership. So we're excited to welcome Matt to the podcast.
Thank you very much.
Thought we would just maybe start off a little, Matt, with just letting our listeners know a little bit about yourself, and maybe you could just start with just providing a little information on some background of yourself.
Yeah. Born and raised in Livingston, Montana. I guess I'm one of those lucky guys that gets to live in the house that he was raised in. Like you said, we've been here for a lot of generations in Montana. Been very fortunate to get to not only live the lifestyle, but get to live where we do and do what we do. Find that very rewarding. Have been a huge part of our community my whole life, as so many of the producers that you guys know and that we all work with, so many people donate back to their communities and keep things local. And that's one of the things that I love about being in Montana, is that Montanans are inherently always wanting to help each other. And that's a pretty cool thing to be a part of. And so that was, for us, kind of an easy, natural extension into what we started to do.
Well, let's talk a little bit about what you are doing. I personally love this whole concept and mission. And so, as Jay mentioned, you are the founder and CEO of the Producer Partnership. And very simply put, the mission is for farmers and ranchers to work on ending hunger in Montana. And so tell us a little bit about how this concept developed, and give us a little background, and then where you're at today.
So being that I live here, I grew up playing soccer in Livingston, which is kind of odd for a Montana rancher kid, but I have been coaching soccer for a very long time here in town. And so I know a lot of the people in Livingston. And when the shelter in place order hit Montana, when COVID started, it was really evident the impact that it had on our area here in Livingston. Livingston is historically a low income area. And so the local food resource center, our food bank, saw a 300% increase in the number of people showing up overnight. It was just unbelievable, the stress that they had. And getting to be so lucky to have the good crew that I have, we were talking one day about what we could do to help, and of course we were in the middle of calving, so it was really hard to figure out ways to help. And we decided, well, gosh, we raised food, and it still took another 3 hours before the whole thing hit my brain of, hey, not only, we raise food, but we can actually do something. And so it all started on a Tuesday afternoon in April. I made a few phone calls, found a bunch of cows, talked to a couple of local processors, and they they gave us dates on that Thursday, and they stepped up to help. We took the first 6 animals in that Thursday. The Park County Community Foundation stepped up and offered to give us a grant to help pay for all the processing, literally on day one. Within 6 days, we had raised over $12,000 for processing and donated the first 700 pounds of hamburger. And thus the idea was really born and really grew from there. We started to get so many animals donated that, even here in Livingston, they didn't have enough storage space. So my wife and I started kind of driving around, to Gardner, to Big Timber, and different areas, and really kind of filled their freezers. And everything was so fortunate that we were able to get enough animals. We started reaching even farther out, the Montana Veterans Meat Locker, to Billings Family Services. And by then we had really seen the need was so much more than we ever could have imagined. To see what all these people are already doing to help Montanans was unbelievable. We went to Billings one day and dropped off, I think it was like the first 1,000 pounds, and they had one package of hamburger in their freezer that they were going to be able to give out the next time that they handed out food. And so we really decided that it was time to try to do more with the simple concept that we had. And the overall concept is really simple from start to finish. We take in donated animals from producers. We allow them to get the tax benefit of a donation to us. We pay for the processing wherever we can get it done. And then we turn around and we donate that food to the Montana Food Bank Network. It has grown from being able to do it just kind of around our area with a few small processors, all the way to the point that we were actually hauling cows all the way to Williston, North Dakota, to a federally inspected plant there, because it was the only place that we could find to do full semi-loads at a time. And, within the first few months, we had raised probably $250,000 to pay for processing. As the idea really expanded and grew, we realized really quickly that we needed to be able to have a little bit more control of our destiny, especially in the same area that every one of your listeners has had trouble with, that is processing. So after a really few frustrating couple of weeks, and after I ended up losing a cow in my corral because it took too long to get her in, I'd kind of had enough, and so fortunate to have such a great board behind me. Just called them up and I said, we have to do this differently. We have to start viewing this whole ability to help each other differently. And so we really went after it and started doing the research. We originally looked at a mobile processing facility, which for Montana just doesn't work. That's great. We could get them inspected, but then we'd have nowhere to take them and get them finished. So we really, really started to kind of dig in, and we're like, well, we don't want to build a brick and mortar building ourselves. And we really didn't want to buy another facility because personally for me, I did not want to go out there and have to call up producers that were already booked out for 18 months and say, I'm sorry, you lost your slot because we need to run our donated animals through. And so buying a current existing facility just did not fit how we wanted to try to fix the problem. And so we really landed on building our own facility and making it a module type facility. And what that is we're working with a company, Friesla, out of Washington. They've been building mobile processing trailers for about 25 years, and they're kind of expanding out and starting to do these full modular facilities. And what it will be 4 units, 12 foot wide, 50 feet long, that will be a complete processing facility. Everything from the knock room to an aging cooler, the cut and wrap, and a freezer. And what this will allow us to do is to be able to process our own animals at whatever rate that we can get them in. But then also, we plan on going after the direct-to-consumer market, and we want to work with the ranchers and the producers that are trying to create their own label so that they can sell direct to a consumer. So we will be, as near as I can find, the first ever federally inspected, fully nonprofit, purchased and run processing facility in the United States. It's a pretty unique project. It is a much different way of viewing it. The road for it has been very bumpy, trying to figure all this out and how to put it together where, so many people say, oh, what can we do to help? And I'm like, I don't know. Well, we don't know what we're doing. We're trying to figure it out. But we're getting there. We started a huge capital campaign, at least it is kind of in my mind, of going after $2.5 million to raise. We're well over halfway there. We've ordered the building itself. The first module is almost complete already. They won't ship them until all 4 are done, so it'll still be a little bit before we see the physical plant, but we're committed, we're into it, and we will be opening a facility yet this year. So that is sort of the not so short version of how we got to where we are today.
Well, Matt, that's a great intro and a great story, and just the innovation and kind of the thought behind that is pretty exciting. And certainly just the innovation of kind of that modular design. I mean, it's nice to see that, what's kind of available or what's coming down the line, and how you can utilize that. I think just on behalf of our association and our Montana Stockgrower Foundation, I mean, we certainly do believe in the work that you're doing, and we're proud to be part of the founding 50. And I think for our listeners, maybe we can talk a little bit about how our members of the Montana Stockgrowers Association can be involved in the producer partnership.
Absolutely. And the Founding 50 is a program that we started last year, and we were trying to, throwing darts at the wall, trying to figure out how we're going to start this up. How much money do we need to raise? Where do we need to get to? The way that we really came out with the Founding 50 and the original idea was we wanted to try to process about 125,000 pounds of hamburger to donate around the state of Montana, because that was what the Montana Food Bank Network estimated that they were going to need. And so we kind of backed that up. We figured that was roughly totally going to cost us about 250,000 between transportation, processing, and everything to get that to the Montana Food Bank Network. So we set out about looking for 50 different organizations, people, individuals, anybody that would donate 5,000 apiece. And the Montana Stockgrowers Foundation was one of the first ones to jump on board and really back us up. And that was what we used to really get going, to pay for the processing, to do everything that we did, in that first year. To date, we've already donated just over 80,000 pounds of hamburger. So we still have a ways to go to get to our target. Building our own facility will really be able to help that. But more importantly, what we're really working on now is trying to get the donated animals, to get animals brought into the program that we can then process, and as all of the listeners on this podcast will understand, whole animal processing, where we're taking a whole cow and we're doing the whole thing into the hamburger, makes an amazing product. The feedback that we have gotten from around the state, from every corner of every food bank that has received some of our stuff, has just been outstanding. I mean, it has gotten to the point that they don't even really want to buy hamburger, because the hamburger they buy is obviously through a broker, and it is as low cost as they can get, and the quality is not anything near what Montanans can produce. And coming from a state as a producer, and especially one, and again, I talk about cows a lot. We have taken in pigs, we have taken in other animals. I generally talk about cows because it's what I know and it's what I'm good at. But in a state with roughly 3 million cows, if you figure 8% get culled out and sold at market every year, that's 240,000 cows that leave our state to get processed elsewhere, that we don't see any benefit other than whatever it is that we make, through the ring. And really, when I look at the numbers, if we could get 1,000 animals donated in a year, we could replace everything that the Montana Food Bank Network purchases at no cost. And we can actually start to go after every school in the state of Montana and give them high quality Montana made product at no cost. And that is something that we're really excited that we would be able to do, but it's going to take a lot of partnerships. The big benefit for the producer that we're able to do is we try to work with them to help give them a tax benefit, back for the donated animal. We see a lot of really weird animals. I mean, we all know about lump jaws and the other things that we sell at really 30 cents on the pound, and just get, an average cull is tough enough, but anything that has a deformity is so discounted when we sell them through the market. This gives us a chance to be able to utilize that in our own state to help each other. And we're really excited about that, to be able to connect those dots from the producers back to those in need.
So if any of our listeners are interested, I've kind of heard two things. Obviously, the cull option is the first one to think of, but are you also looking for producers to, kind of commit to a steer a year or something like that as well? Like, how are you set up right now for donations, and give us the information on how people reach out to you if they want to donate?
Yeah, great question. So we do have our own website, producerpartnership.com, and pretty much every number you need to get a hold of us, even my own cell phone number is on there. We're very open, and man, nowadays I have to actually answer the phone when it's a number I don't know, because instead of thinking it's a telemarketer, it's usually, a producer or somebody that wants to help. So I have to actually answer the phone. Um, right now, we do have a lot of spots kind of saved around the state. So if somebody wants to donate an animal, all they have to do is get in touch with us and we'll help connect the dots of, even if we have to come and pick them up, but we can get them. And really, once somebody donates and we pick them up, it's hands off for the producer. They don't have to do anything from there. We take care of everything else from there. We'll get the animal processed, we'll pay for the processing, and we will get them donated. We have done things like if somebody's really, they want to donate a couple of animals, but they want it to go to their food bank. We work with the Montana Food Bank Network to make sure that whatever hamburger comes or product comes from them goes back to where they want it to go. We try really hard to help people connect the way that they feel that they want to connect, because everybody has different ways that they want to try to help out their communities. And for us, we felt it very important at the beginning that we help connect those dots and make people feel comfortable doing it.
Great. And Matt, you talked a little bit about just your capital campaign and the modular processing facility. Can you talk a little bit more about how you kind of found that unit and and really what maybe if we have individual producers that not only want to maybe provide some animals, donated animals, but maybe want to become part of the capital investment and just where they may be able to help out.
Yeah, it is, this whole project, and really, I think COVID in general has really changed how people communicate, how they meet, and how we get things done. Most of everything that we did in this project from the beginning, take Livingston, for example, we hauled in the first probably 1,400 pounds in before I ever even met Michael McCormick, the gentleman who runs it. We just talked on the phone. But because of COVID, we can never really meet in person. And so many of the people that we worked with, we don't ever actually meet until much later down the road. And really that bled over into how we ended up with the facility. It's just a lot of online research, a lot of phone calls, and then really kind of a big leap of faith from us. I actually flew out to Washington, saw one of the units being built, actually their first modular unit being built, so that I could kind of put my hands on it, see what it looked like, see if it would fit what we needed, if the quality was going to be good, and everything else. And so that was really just kind of how that whole part got started. And, as far as the capital campaign, we have applied for grants, we have applied for everything. We've talked to individuals. I mean, we're trying to, in my words, we're trying to change this without other people doing anything. This is a way for the producers to step out and help each other without the government getting in the way or anybody else sort of getting involved. This is our ability to try to really step up and move forward with a project that is so different in thinking. And it is kind of unique because there's really no blueprint for this. We've really kind of had to go out and we'll probably stumble along the way in certain areas, but we are determined to do it right and to do what's best as we move forward.
So you mentioned briefly, what's the timeline for this facility? So modules will be coming in later this year. And then when will you be hoping to be up and running with the facility?
So timing wise, as long as we can continue to raise money, like I said, we're just over halfway there. And we've talked to a lot of people, but our goal is to try to be up and functioning in November. To be able to get it, we will, once the building gets on site, we need to do our final on-site federal inspection. Once we do that, it'll be 2 weeks after that before we can really get going on our own. So that's kind of the target, but it also depends a little bit on if we can raise enough money in time. The building itself, I would say, is probably about a third done already, with all of the plans and the building. And we're picking the paint color of this unit this week, actually, so that we can have that done on time. But we are on track for that unit being delivered in the first week of November. So we have a lot of site preparation to do here at the ranch to make sure that we're ready to go. But I feel pretty confident that we're going to be able to get that done.
Matt, what about, can you talk to our listeners a little bit about just the inspection or the permitting process? I know sometimes that is kind of a daunting task, and what's been your experience to this point to get to where you're at? Is that, just maybe what has that process been like for you?
Yeah, so we decided early on that we wanted to be federally inspected. Because if we are going to work with the direct-to-consumer producers so that we can offer processing for them, we knew that we wanted to go federal so that they could be able to ship it anywhere, that, you know, we wouldn't have to worry about anything. And so it, for us, just started with a phone call to the regional office to say, hey, we're really dumb. We don't know what we're doing. What do we need to do to get started? And my own personal interaction with these guys and everything has been amazing. They sent everything that I needed to fill out. They've already stopped by to check the site and to kind of help give us guidelines of what we need to make sure that we have done on time and in what order. Every time I've ever had a question, I just email them and they get right back to me. I guess the best way to describe it is, here we are in June and we already have our federal number. We have everything set up. We are down to just the point that we need to be able to have the on-site inspection, which of course we can't do until the facility gets here. But we've already started to set up days of the week that we will have our own inspector on site. They've helped me. We're going to have an office building on site with the break room and everything. They've helped me kind of put together what I need to have for their inspector, you know, filing cabinets. I mean, even how big the office needs to be, silly stuff like that. But they have been super helpful in getting us from start to actual up and running. So that's been, at least for us, for me, I know I've heard a lot of horror stories. It's been great for us. I think that the unique nature of our project has garnered a lot of interest, though, and that you know, just because this is something new and totally different, a lot of people are really interested in what we're doing and want to see it. You know, ourselves included, by the way. We're excited to see it.
We are as well. So you had briefly mentioned you were right around $80,000 or 80,000 pounds of meat donated. Tell us what your goals are. Like, what is your target? What's the, you know, big goal that you're shooting for?
Oh, man. So again, you know, kind of going back to those numbers, if we could get at least 1,000 cows or the equivalent of 1,000 cows donated a year, I did rough numbers and I just said, okay, 300 pounds of hamburger per cow. And really to date, we've done well over 200 animals. We've averaged, 347 pounds per animal. So we've actually kind of eclipsed that 300, but I just, for round numbers, I said 300 pounds. If we were able to get 1,000 pounds a year or 1,000 animals a year donated, we would have enough Montana raised protein to replace everything that the Montana Food Bank Network has to buy every year to put into their system. There are 240 some network partners that they have. And then we would immediately be able to go after every school in the state of Montana with free hamburger. That will also add a few challenges, you know, just because of the nature of the Montana schools. Not all of our schools can cook their own hamburger. They're reheat only kitchens. And so we'll have a few other interesting hurdles to make sure that we can give them a product they can use. Because it'd be really bad to send something to somebody that it looks great in a package, but if they can't feed it to their kids, then that we're not helping. And so, but again, if you look at the number of producers, the number of people we have in our state, I don't see it as a far number to say that we can get 1,000 animals a year donated. And anything above and beyond that, we will easily be able to start reaching out to other areas of the country and send Montana, you know, made product. And again, what's been really unique about this, so say 80,000 pounds, and it took us a little while to get going. And once we really kind of got up and going and we're able to kind of get some of our own labels made, you know, that is basically 80,000 flyers that are going out the door. And granted, those are people in need. But again, if you look at the start of COVID, 300% increase, you know, and that's starting to drop back down to kind of normal numbers for them. But if we continue to help and to show that the Montana producer is willing to think differently, to act differently, to be different and helping each other, you know, the message behind that and the weight that it will carry, the earned media, as we call it, sort of that coverage that we get that we don't have to pay for is unbelievable. And again, it's kind of like we talked earlier, we have great people in the state. We have such a great, you guys at the Stockgrowers do so much work at helping direct traffic, of directing people to not only just legislature, but education, promotion, and all that stuff. And this, for us, this will be another great way to help with that. I mean, could you imagine if we could donate 350,000 pounds of hamburger a year? The weight that would carry back to our producers, to our state, and the message that could put back out to the country. Here is a little upstart group that was able to figure out a way to help ourselves, and then maybe we can create a blueprint that we can duplicate in other states. We don't know how far this can go yet, and we're really excited to see just what we can accomplish when we think of the solution differently.
So Matt, through all of this great project and just the work that you put into it, you must have a favorite story that you can maybe share with us about your work and some of the impact your efforts have made.
I would say probably the best part that I really enjoy, and especially, the board of directors that these people that came to us that wanted to be a part of this project. And our board is absolutely all volunteers, and it's all people that wanted to be a part of the project. Other than having to talk to my wife into being our treasurer so that it wasn't so hard to track the money down and keep track of things, everybody else came to us and really wanted to be a part of it. And what I really enjoy about it is our whatever it takes sort of, we call it the GSD motto, that gets stuff done. And we really take that to heart. We had a gentleman who wanted to donate a bunch of his cows. He had sold his property. He had given us a couple of steers earlier in the year. He called me up and he said, Matt, I want to donate my cows to you. He had a 40 cow herd. And he said, but I haven't weaned the calves yet. And my ranch sold in 8 hours. And we basically have 3 weeks to get off. And he said, I just don't know what I'm going to do. I said, I tell you what, I'll drive down tomorrow. We'll take a look at everything and decide what we're going to do. I drove down the next day. He and I talked about it. And I said, I tell you what, I'll make you a deal. I'll bring your whole cow herd back to my house. I'll wean them for you. I'll background the calves for you. Once the cows are done bawling and everything, we'll go ahead and donate them. And then you'll have time to decide what to do with the calves. Those calves are still at my house, doing very well, I might add. But we really took that approach of, rather than saying no, that doesn't fit the model that we wanted, we've tried hard to let this thing build on its own and be adaptive as we go. And of course, again, being so lucky to get to live where I do what I do, I kind of have some flexibility to be able to help people in that way that a lot of other people wouldn't have that ability. And so it's kind of fortunate to be able to put those two together. And so that was really our first large number donation from one guy that really took us from getting a cow here done and a cow there done to all of a sudden we're calling Williston, North Dakota saying, hey, we have a semi-load. Can we drop them off? And that, when all of a sudden the Montana Food Bank Network sending a truck out to pick up 15,000 pounds at a time, you've gone from something small to something much bigger. And those guys have been amazing in jumping on board and helping. Huge kudos to what that crew does. Those guys, they are so cool. You just call them up. You want to get something done, call those guys. They'll figure out how to do it. That's been a good group to work with.
Well, great. Well, this has been great, and we hope our listeners, if they weren't familiar with you, are now familiar with you. And we would definitely encourage everyone to consider connecting with Matt and donating if possible to go towards his mission. So I will repeat it. The website is producerpartnership.com, and Matt's phone number is 406-220-7223. So Matt, any other parting comments that you want to tell our listeners?
Yeah, absolutely. Feel free to call me. Just know with modern technology, I use AirPods Pro, and so you're probably going to hear a lot of cows in the background or equipment or something. Because like any other producer that's out there, we can't do just one thing during the day. We have to do multiple things in order to make ends meet. But always happy to talk about the project. We're really excited about the difference that we feel that we can make. So, moving forward, there's a lot of cool stuff coming along with this project.
Well, once again, I'd like to just thank you, Matt, for joining us today. And once again, just remind our listeners, if you're interested, please contact Matt. If you have any trouble finding his information, just once again, contact our office. We'll get you in touch with the producer partnership. And so we can continue to just build on this great program. And once again, just thank you very much, Matt, for joining us and really your work on this great program.
And thank you for having me. It's fun to reach out to everybody and let them know what we're doing. And hopefully we can sort of cast a bigger net out there.
Great. Well, you have a good afternoon.
Thank you. You too.
Well, once again, we'd just like to thank Matt for joining us today. It was great to kind of hear a little bit about the producer partnership and really the efforts they're making there. It's pretty exciting news. And for anybody that has some interest in donating, please look up the producer partnership, or once again, just contact us if you have any interest in being participating in that partnership. So.
And we'd like to again thank you for joining us. Make sure to subscribe to The Rancher's Voice. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. Make sure to like, share, and comment on each episode. And if you didn't have an opportunity to text us to sign up for our new text messaging system, do that by texting BEEF to 855-965-4006. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, everybody.